Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of God's Love Podcast. So today I'm here with Anna Caylin. Hi.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about your story and kind of how you grew in your relationship with God.
Sure. I live in Georgia and I have a lot of younger siblings and I was homeschooled as well, like all through high school. I'm 18 now. And yeah, a big turning point in my life. I grew up in the church, grew up in a Christian home, was raised in the church. But I think some hard things can come with that territory too, because it's very easy for it to become like routine to you just because that's all you've known your whole life. And so it was around, I was 14, and several really hard things happened to me within a few months. And it really tested my faith and made me have to kind of make that choice for myself at that age. Like, do I really believe what I've grown up in? Do I really believe in
Yes.
God, or am I just kind of doing it because it was what my parents taught me?
Yeah. So you said you're 18.
Hmm.
So you're in college. So how are you 18 and in college? Because I know a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, so like I said, I was homeschooled from the time I was in second grade. And in elementary school, I was very like far ahead. I was in private school for kindergarten and first grade, and my parents pulled me out because I was bored. And so I kind of was able to get ahead a little bit in elementary school and started taking high school classes in eighth grade instead of ninth grade. And then started taking dual enrollment college when I was 16. So I'm actually going to be graduating with a ministry degree in December. So I'm
Wow.
excited.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So you were saying you had some hard times in your life. So are you willing to talk about that or?
Yeah, sure. When I was 13, 14 years old, I was a nanny for a family that I went to church with. I had known them for about 2 years at that point. And I specifically watched their two younger children. And at that point, they had really become siblings to me. I had watched them grow up. I had known them since they were babies or before they were born, and really considered them sisters to me. And it was that summer right after I turned 14 that their youngest passed away. And it was a very sudden, tragic sort of thing. And that was really hard for me. Like, it really had kind of been like I lost my little sister and didn't really know how to process that. I was 14. I don't think anyone really knows how to go through that and process that, no matter how old you are. But being 14, that was a very hard thing for me to deal with. And a lot of the people around me didn't really know how to deal with it either. So I really did kind of feel very alone in that place because no one understood what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And then a couple months after that, my dad was also diagnosed with cancer, which everyone knows that's a very hard thing to kind of swallow. And so I was dealing with, okay, how do I grieve this loss? And it truly was like a traumatic loss. There wasn't any warning around it.
Yeah.
And then also, being told like my dad's very, very, very sick and has the potential to also die, like all at the same time. For anyone, that's hard. But for a 14-year-old, it was my freshman year of high school. I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. That's so sad. But so is he okay? Like what
Yes,
is
my dad is fine.
okay.
He had surgery, and it was successful. It was a very long, hard recovery process, but he is fine now. Thank you.
Okay, good. So oh I just had a question. I lost it. This always happens.
That's
Um
okay.
It was just there because you were talking about I can't find it. Nope. So,
Okay.
what do you like, what is your plan for kind of, after you graduate in December? What are you wanting to do?
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, like when I was picking what college to go to, what I wanted to major in and everything, there was kind of a lot that I thought about. I really didn't know, especially because I was 16 when I had to make that choice. Like a lot of people get to wait till they're, 18 or 19 to
Yeah.
figure out what they want to do. And I'm 16 and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I want to do. And, but after at that point it had been about 2 years since everything happened, and I had really just gotten to a place of healing at that point. It was a very long, hard um recovery process for me because there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of I dealt with depression, I dealt with anxiety, I dealt and still do deal with all of that stuff, and so it was a long process. And so at that point, um, I was on, I was actually on a mission trip, and it was one of our last days there. And I had had a really cool conversation with a girl that was, I think she was 13 or something. Um, and I got to paint her nails, which she had never had her nails painted before, which, like, to me, I was like, how are you 13 and you've never had your nails painted? Because
Yeah.
that seems so simple to us. But um, it was really neat to get to interact with her in that way. And then a couple days later, it was our last day there. And it was something my youth pastor said that I think God just really used that to be like, hey, I'm calling you to ministry. Like, this is what I want you to do for the rest of your life. Like, you have this gift. And I had volunteered in church from the time I was like 10 or 11. I led worship in the youth group starting when I was, I think, 13 or 14. I had been doing all of these things in the church in ministry, but had never put the pieces together until then. And so I was like, okay, God, like, that's what you want me to do. And so I knew I obviously at that point wanted to go to a Christian school, wanted to somehow major in something ministry related. And then, so I did choose that, but still wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. But then again, as I continued, I think through that healing process, it became very apparent to me like how important the people in the church were to me at that point, because it was actually one of my youth leaders that when I was dealing with everything when I was 14, she really was the one that stepped in and saved my life, honestly. Because, my dad was sick, my mom was obviously preoccupied with him. She was the one that kind of played that parent role when they couldn't. And um I was like, I want to be able to give that back. Like, I'm never ever going to be able to give it back to her. And I still talk to her. I was talking to her late last night. I love her so much. And it's one of those things I always tell her, I'm like, I will never, ever, ever be able to repay you for what you
Yeah.
gave to me. But it's something that as I continued to heal and saw how important she was, I was like, I would love to be able to give that back to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I majored in ministry. I minored in counseling because um, my youth leader, she actually had her master's in counseling, which is honestly what I think really let her be able to talk to me and
Yeah.
help me through that. She knew all of that stuff. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I got to this is what I want to do in college. And then, I mean, at December, I graduate, and I've definitely considered several different things at this point. I've been interviewing for a lot of like 1 or 2 year long internships the last few weeks that I'm considering, maybe I'll do that for a year or two after graduating. Maybe, I don't know, God will place a job right there at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I definitely want to work with kids or, youth ministry. Just because that I love working with kids and especially I think middle school, high school can be a hard thing to do, but it can also be really rewarding.
Yeah.
And, that's when I went through all of that hard stuff. And that's when people did play a really important role in my life. And so, yeah, I would definitely love to work with kids or youth within like a church or ministry setting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, like doing this podcast and listening to all these stories from all these different people, you you kind of put together the pieces of that. Pretty much, usually, a lot of people in their and there are those few people that find them like later in their lives, but you tend to find that it's the middle school and high schoolers that
Mhm.
really get impacted, and
Yeah.
so that's a great mission. But a question popped in my head. So, for you know, all this trauma that was happening at once, did that bring you closer to God, or did it kind of make you question things, or
Yeah, I think it did both. It did. So everything started in July. And my sister passed in July, and my dad was diagnosed in December. So that like 6 month period, it was pretty much July till January, was very much a questioning period. I was still going to church. I was still teaching Sunday school, actually. I was still doing my quiet time. I was still praying. I was doing all of the things that I did, but 100% out of routine, not out of any desire for God.
yeah,
Because it was a point that I was very much questioning. I mean, everyone I think can easily question that when something bad happens, it's like, God, are you still there? Like, why did you let this happen?
yeah,
You're supposed to be a good God. Like,
yeah,
how does this work? And so that's definitely what I went through for honestly a 6 month period of just really questioning, why did he let this happen? Like, how could this happen to me? Is he actually good? Is
yeah,
he real? Like, I had all of those questions flooding my mind over that 6 month period. And every day I woke up, it was just honestly harder every single day of just getting out of bed in the morning. I very much numbed myself to what I was feeling just because it did hurt so much that it was easier just to pretend that it wasn't there. And I honestly don't remember a lot of those 6 months because I was so numb to everything. Everything that happened, it was just kind of, I can't really describe it. It was like an out of body sort of thing. Like I was there, but I wasn't.
yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, that really continued for 6 months and I think also in that situation, it's very easy to want to blame someone for it.
yeah,
And I definitely went through blaming God for it and kind of built a wall there that it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to pray because I'm supposed to and because people are telling me to, but I'm not really sure if I believe that it's actually going to do anything.
yeah,
Um, so then, like, those 6 months kind of go by of doing that. And at that point, I just had reached a breaking point, honestly, because I had kind of shoved it all down. I pretended it wasn't there. I just got to a point, you can only take so much of that. And I'm sorry.
you're good.
um you can only take so much of that. And so that was when my youth leader, she really did step in like right at the right time. And I see how God, she had known me for 3 or 4 years at that point, but I wasn't very close to her.
Yeah,
And finally one day, because she had asked me what was wrong, if I was okay, every single time I saw her. And I was always like, yeah, or I'd make up some excuse or I would just ignore it or whatever. And then I did kind of reach that breaking point. She was like, I know there's something wrong. Like, I know you better than that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she honestly did kind of, she saved me in that. And a few days after that conversation where I finally was honest with her, I did reach that point with God of, it was one night, I remember it so clearly. I'm laying, it was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning. That was the other thing. I didn't sleep. Like it was very bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And that was rock bottom to me. Um, I was just like, God, if you're there, I need you to answer me right now. Otherwise, like I just didn't see it anymore. It was almost, it felt like I was holding on to this false hope of like something supposed to happen, like something good is supposed to happen. That's what everyone around me keeps telling me. Like,
Yeah.
God's going to use it for good. Like, you just have to wait. It's going to be okay. People keep telling me these things, and I'm like, but I've waited for 6 months for something, and nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And so it was very discouraging at that point. And so I was laying there that night, and I was just like, God, I can't. Like, you're going to have to show me something if I'm going to keep going. And he did. Um, like he showed up that night, and it was it what I wanted, was it the answer I wanted? No, but it was enough for me to be like, okay, he's real, like he is working, he is moving, no matter how much it doesn't seem like it. And so after that, I had this like little bitty promise that I could hold on to of like, okay, he's doing something here. And then also at that point, having my youth leader in my life, she was very, she'd text me almost every day. We would go, she started taking me out to lunch every week to talk, just about what I was feeling, what I was thinking, all of
Yeah.
that stuff. Um, and obviously, continuing to pull me closer to God and pull me out of, honestly, just a deep dark pit of depression and not really sure what to do with it, all of it, helping me process through it. And at that point it did start growing me closer to God. And as time continued to pass after that, it was, I saw God in different things. And now it's been almost 5 years, and I look back on it and I'm like, would I give anything to have her back again? Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't be the person that I am now. Like, I wouldn't see people the way that I do. I wouldn't love people the way that I do had I not felt that before.
Yeah. And that, realizing when you kind of like lay out your whole story and you like look at it from an overview point, you're kind of realizing that when many people say God has a plan or things happen for a reason, you kind of look over this and you're like, that was happening for a reason, but I didn't know it in that moment.
Mhm. Because it takes so long. Like I said, like it's been almost
Yeah.
5 years. And now I'm seeing, like, hey, I'm about to graduate college and I'm about to be in a position to help girls the way that my leader did for me. But it took that many years.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't able to see that then. I was only seeing like tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a YouTube channel and you are a YouTuber. So, you know, what how did you get started into YouTube and kind of what do you do for YouTube?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story, honestly. Um, Anyone that's probably my age, I mean, I don't know. There was a show on Disney Channel called Good Luck Charlie in like 2010, I think.
Yes.
Okay, I was obsessed with the show Good Luck Charlie.
Oh, same.
And oh my gosh, I loved it. And anyways, I have two, I have twin sisters that are 4. And so there's a 15-year age gap between me and them. And so I always had this like sentiment when they were born of like, are they going to remember me? Like if I move out when they're like 4 or 5, are they going to remember me? Like all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And so I started right after they were born. I started like videoing stuff that I did, like basically vlogging, but I was like 15. So,
You were
and
becoming Good Luck Charlie.
exactly, I was becoming Teddy from Good Luck Charlie, like making video diaries for her little sisters.
But that's kinda cool,
And
though.
yeah, and my mom was like, "You're like Teddy from Good Luck Charlie." Because then I'd sit down and watch Good Luck Charlie. I didn't put the two pieces together until my mom pointed it out. She was like, "You're basically doing what they do in the show." And I was like, huh, I never thought of that before.
Yeah.
And so I loved like video editing, vlogging, just like I would vlog whenever we went on vacation. And I have like a gigantic um hard drive of all of these videos that I have saved for my sisters when they're older. And but one time, like a couple years after started doing this for them, a couple of my friends were like, "You would make a really good YouTuber." Hadn't even crossed my mind. And I was like, because I would vlog stuff, but then I also did some like sit down like life advice videos for my sisters of like, because I went through some hard stuff with like work, and there was one point where I got into like this really big fight with my friends, and so I would like sit down and be like, okay, this is what happened,
Yeah.
for them to one day look back
Like
on.
big sister advice.
Yeah, exactly. And so my friends were like, "You would make a really good YouTuber." And I was like, huh, I'd never thought of that before, but it would be kind of fun. Like, I have a camera, I like editing. Okay, I'll give it a shot. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, like that was just kind of how it started. I post videos every Monday. And I kind of try to keep a schedule. So far, I've done good with it. I've been on YouTube for 3 or 4 months now, since November, I think. It was November or December, I don't remember. But I
Good.
try to do a faith video. So I've talked about different things with faith. I've talked about me and my friends recently did a video on our friendship, which is hilarious. Definitely recommend you go watch it if you want to laugh because it's very funny. Um, but I try to do a faith video, and then I love hair and makeup, and so I definitely try to do some like fun hair makeup video, makeup tutorial, whatever. I'm not a professional, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy hair and makeup, and I'm actually doing my friend's wedding hair and makeup in a couple weeks. So
That
there
sounds
will be
fun.
videos. Yes, there will be videos from her wedding on that if anyone's interested.
I'll
Um
check that out.
and then I try to do a like fun random video. I've done different vlogs. I did like what I got for Christmas, like just random fun videos. And then something else that I always try to do every week, and I actually filmed next week's video yesterday, which is going to be a singleness video. And so every month I do a video on singleness because um I think that was a big thing for me growing up, was just especially like in church, literally my friends would be like 14 or 15 and they'd go on a date with a guy. And I was always puzzled by that personally. But and
What do
I
you
was
mean
not
by, like,
attracted.
puzzled by that?
I
Like,
don't know. I
that
was
it
always
shouldn't
just like,
happen or
yeah, I just felt like it was weird that they like couldn't drive, but they were going on a date. I think that was more like my processing of things.
Yeah.
I was like, once you're 16 and you can drive, like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was weird being like 14 and my friend went on a date, and I was like, okay, but I don't know. I also wasn't attracted to boys at that like age. I was like, boys are weird and dumb.
Yeah.
But when I was like 16, 17, I was like, oh, I like he's cute or whatever.
You were just
And
you had
then,
different focuses.
yeah, I think like, and different people at different ages notice different things, I think. And so, but yeah, singleness to me is something that's become really important to talk about. One of my friends, like I said, is getting married in a couple weeks, but the rest of us are all single. And so I've done a singleness video with them as well. Just like answering questions and talking about it. And so I'm trying to think, I talked about being content in singleness in one video. We did our Q&A. I'm doing a how to pray for your future husband video. So like stuff like that. And I always try to post one of those every month. But yeah, that's kind of what I do on YouTube. It's kind of a lot of things, but
But it's a
kind
good
of like,
variety.
yeah, kind of like half faith related and then
Yeah.
half just more like fun vlogs. What's my life? I've been
Yeah.
vlogging this week, so there'll be a week in my life video some point here soon. So
It'll be up sometime.
at some point.
That sounds fun. So do you have any other like any advice for someone who may be listening? Just about like anything. It can be something that you've learned or just advice.
Oh wow, that's a hard question. um trying to think. I'm There's like something that's like on the tip of my tongue,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, this is like always something that I go back to, but now I can't remember what it is.
I mean, it's okay. I just like to ask people because, at the
Yeah,
end of hearing somebody's story, you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, well that's similar to mine, but what do I
uh-huh.
do?" And so,
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly, like being honest and vulnerable is really hard, especially like for me when I was going through all of that, trusting somebody that much. Um, but like God's gonna put the right people in your life at the right time. And so I definitely have had a hard time trusting certain people because I mean, trusting a lot of people. Me and my friend were just talking about this last night when we were having dinner. Like, I have a very hard time trusting people because a lot of people have walked out on me, hurt me,
yeah.
um, and dealing with death and loss like that. That's even a hard thing for me. Of my mind automatically goes to the worst thing. Like if somebody doesn't answer their phone all day, my mind goes to the worst place possible.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time it's not true. It's just like, oh, I haven't looked at my phone all day or something.
Yeah.
And I get freaked out, or so I do have a hard time trusting people, but at the same time I've also had to learn, God's going to put people in our lives when we need them. And at a certain point, if they do end up, kind of walking away or not being part of our lives anymore, like God's also doing that for a reason. Like we have to be content in knowing, God's going to bring some people into our lives that are meant to stay there forever. Like
Yeah.
my youth leader, for example, I know she's always going to be there. I'm always going to be able to call her. But then I've had other people in my life that I've even, grown through stuff with, and they've helped me through different things, and they were there for a season. There was one person that was really important to me right after I was going through all that stuff, but she was in my life for about a year and then she moved away. And I honestly haven't talked to her ever since then, not because anything bad happened,
Yeah.
just because. And that was hard for me to, like, I just wanted to hold on to that so badly. But I had to come to the point of, she was in my life for a season and she made a difference in my life. And then when it was, time for someone else to, come in, God said, hey, like they're going to go and I'm going to bring something better for you and
Yeah.
something new. And that's something hard to be okay with. But, God's going to bring people in and he's going to pull people out. And sometimes he's pulling people out to protect us before they hurt us. If
Yeah.
you never know. And so it's a hard thing to trust people, and it's also a hard thing to lose people. But I've definitely had to learn with everyone that I've, been close to and lost or am still close to, you know,
Yeah.
God's put us all together for a reason, and He's gonna, ordain those relationships for however long they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to be for. And we just have to rest in Him and knowing that He's unchanging and our relationship with Him is never going to change.
Yeah.
And because of that, we can be okay with, the physical people in our lives, maybe coming and going.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so thank you. I never know how to end these things. Thank you so much for coming on here. You have an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
So all her links, all her YouTube, her Instagram, all of that will be in the description box. If you guys want to go check her out, you definitely should. But thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yes, of course. I hope everyone has a great day. Bye bye. Thank you guys so much for listening to the God's Love podcast. I have so much fun speaking with people and hearing about their journeys to God, and I hope that someone really learned something from this episode, because I know I did. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Marina Moore or the podcast at God's Love Podcast. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave comments to see what you love. I want to give a shout out to this episode's guest, so thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I also want to give a shout out to you guys who are listening because y'all are the best. So thank you so much for listening to the God's Love podcast.